All right, welcome back. Well, yes, we're turning attention now to the economy. Well, the president did give some recommendations there in terms of the plan, the highlights, the forecast, whichever adjective you want to use. Well, now we're joined by Mr. Eddie Osarin-Hoy, who is the former president, Finance Houses Association of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Well, the president did also say when inequality rises, insecurity rises. So economic inequality in this respect. But yes, he's highlighted some of what the country can do. Well, he listed those countries that can get the people out of poverty. So as a matter of fact, the poverty clock is ticking as we speak. So almost like Nigeria is in a race to get people out of that poverty. But having listened and read the president's speech, those parts where he spoke about getting, 100 million people out of poverty, what do you think of it? Is this something you think is achievable?
Yeah, I think there's a caveat to that. He said 100 million people in 10 years.
Yeah.
That means, in a simple average, you are looking at 10 million people per annum. If you look at that speech, because he said 10 years, so that means if you didn't look at it, you think you're going to get 100 million within 1 year, which is not possible. Yeah. So if you look at it on a simple average, they're targeting 10 million people in a year. A country that is about 100 and something, about 200 million, and from what I read last page, targeting that will be almost about 400 million in some years. It was quoting a report by the UN, which shows the country, the population growth is quite enormous. And so to figure out 10 million people per annum is a tall order though, but I think it's something that is doable if we actually have a good economic framework, but because
now that's, I see you also put a caveat now. Yes. If we do,
yes.
But he also spoke about certain other items, criteria perhaps, if you will, that need to be done if we're to succeed in doing that. He talked about states, what states needs to do, and several other dimensions there. But looking at those other provisions, first of all, with what is currently in place, maybe with regard to the ERGP and what the states can do, which he said, how do you see both of them interplaying to achieve this 10 million per annum?
You see, my fear with those arrangements is that, see, the way the country is being managed now is driven from up down. What I'm saying, if we have a policy that enables each state, that's why people kept talking about allowing states to actually empower themselves. That makes sure they actually think of things within themselves that can make them great.
Why can't they do that now?
Thank you. But now, because they have the belief of going to the federal thing to share money at the end of the month and take, some of them might be lazy. I was very happy with that report. The president took time to look at the various resources available to us in this country. That was quite instructive. He identified the solid mineral. Apart from oil, there are a lot of things that are available to us in this country. If you are taking a look at the solid mineral state by state, you will see that this country is actually well endowed. Some of those states that are supposed to be brought up. But I think the problem with our country is a policy framework. In the oil sector, you put everything to a common pool. And then you're having a blind eye to the solid mineral. Why don't you put them to, so allow every state to run on its own, like we had in those days where you had cocoa. What I'm saying, poverty, this country, like you said.
So what are the quick fixes? If you say this can change, what are the quick fixes that must be done in terms of legislation or in terms of administration for the states?
Quick fixes that can be done is no more than what everybody is talking about, how do you call it now, to empower each state to run its own. What I'm saying.
Autonomous.
Eh?
To be autonomous?
No, they are already autonomous, they run their budget, do everything, but to empower them, there's a word for it now. There's common word you use all over the place, talking about...
It means different things for different people.
Restructuring? Restructuring, thank you. Restructuring, which I know of, which I think is good for this country, is, I am from Edo State, for example, and we're happy with the general framework of agriculture. And so I was impressed when recently a client of mine into things he didn't quite expect, can I export basic pineapple. That creates a lot of revenue base for the person and even this country. What I'm saying, therefore, is that if you restructure the economy, all those things we talk about can be achieved.
Okay. Now, that notwithstanding, I'm not taking that for granted, the point you made.
Yes.
What stops the private sector from taking advantage and then moving forward?
Thank you. The private sector is the engine of growth, like we all know, in any economy. And the major challenge they kept talking about is funding, and that's where, let me to answer you straight, create the enabling environment. We talk about, I'm not among those who keep looking at problems. We look at how to fix it. In that report, if you look at it, I would expect the president to put a team together, economic team, not just the ministers and the others. Minister can be anybody, but you need to have a strong economic team.
Don't they have one now?
They have one.
What is this going to? What is the team going to do differently than what is being done now?
Before, but if you look at what happened in this country some time ago that worked, there was a separate economic team apart from the ministers and the others.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little further when we'll come back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, you were talking about the states and what they need to do, and don't forget the private sector. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was talking about that. I'm even happy with the recent development where the allocation for LGA goes direct to the local government. I mean, that shows responsibility. So you cannot hold the local government chairman and the team responsible for action and usage of those funds.
So the question I'm trying to ask is this. Now, much as you say that states need to ensure that they perform better, right, wanting certain laws to be put in place.
Yes.
But as it is currently constituted, is it that they cannot come in or encourage or drive the private sector to a very large point of growth, because the government can only provide the environment and then the private sector themselves will be the ones creating those jobs? What stops them from doing that?
Some states are doing just that. But some, in view of the way we've been structured all along, some just require, look at it as you're going to be there for 4 years. Maybe the first 4 years they try to, second 4 years they use it as a way to enrich themselves. Take, for example, look at the northern states where we have a lot of insecurity, for example. There are a lot of opportunities. When I look at that report, I was very impressed. The president identified a lot of things that could make those units grow. Like in agriculture, they were very emphatic about that. They have a lot of arable land, a lot of population that can be put to use and grow a lot. What happened to the Grand Pyramid we used to have? There are a lot of things that can be done from those. Like I said, the review of the various things around the country, which they did in that paper, identified that every state can do things that
now,
can make them.
If you could juxtapose the president's comments about getting people out of poverty, yes, alongside some of the current plans, the economic plans that they have and are projecting, perhaps the ARGP inclusive, where they're talking about Anchor Borrowers program of the CBN, leveraging on it, the environment and the jobs they say they've curated there, some of those other medium-term programs that they're putting in place. How much can all of those put together contribute to getting people out of poverty? Are they deep enough for you?
I want to look at it from the various aspects you just talked about. Anchor program is doing very well because CBN is anchoring it, and they're doing a lot of work there in the aggregate and the rest. But the other social infrastructure thing that the government is actually doing, to me, I would not see that as economically beneficial.
Which one exactly?
The idea of giving people 10,000 naira or this peanuts fund. You teach people how to fish and not give them little things. After they finish eating, they go back to their poverty level.
What would you rather have?
I'd rather prefer encouraging the growth of SME, like these artisans. Teach them, give them tools to grow their business, which they are doing. Some states are doing that. And then you see that they, like you said in that paper, Nigerians are resilient. They are people who want to fight poverty.
Would you encourage adopting clusters in this regard?
Yes, cluster can do that. Like we've seen how it works in borrowing money to people in clusters, encouraging them to pay back, and then they can get more. And even creating farms and allowing them to operate as cooperatives, those things have been tested and they are good, very good to help people. But I think about beyond that, we need to look at the economic spread of this country. You don't use one fix for everybody. You can't put one law and say you're going to go around the country like, no.
How do you mean?
There are some...
What do you mean one law?
Thank you. Like, there are some states that are very well endowed. Take, for example, Lagos State. You can't adopt the kind of law you put in very poor state to come and apply in Lagos, because people are here, they are struggling to make money. But you see, education is very important. People who don't have the required basic education won't even know what to do.
Okay.
And, yes.
Pardon me to jump in because we need to wind down now.
Please.
Let's speak about one of your area of expertise, finance houses here.
Yes.
There are those who have consistently, and I know you're not, this allegation, you're not new to hearing them,
yes,
where they say they are not just performing their core functions. And if you can remember some time ago, the reason why they say they had to set up this, special banks, Bank of Agric and some of those other banks, the regular commercial banks wouldn't make themselves available or wouldn't channel those funds properly to the end users and access them.
yes.
So, with respect to finance houses playing their key role to driving the economy, would you say they failed, or how have they fared?
Oh, fine. The major challenge with finance houses is access to loanable funds. And two, the structuring of the economy too has been a major challenge. I'm very happy that now the government has done a lot of work by the introduction of BVN, NIBS, and all that, which makes it easy for you to track defaulters. What actually affected finance houses in those days were people who just walk in to take money and run away, the defaulters. So they had a lot of receivables they couldn't really control because the structure was not there to assist them. So we believe with time, if the structures are put in place to enable them to keep track of borrowers and recover their funds, they grow their fund gradually and also have access to loanable funds. The major thing is that the banks are not in a position to borrow you money for.
So is the current economic growth sustainable at the interest rates?
Yes. Which interest rate?
Yes,
present interest rate.
Yes.
I don't really like to discuss interest rate because interest rate has a component of so many things. For you to drive down interest rate, so many things have to be put in place: the infrastructure, the power, and all those stuff, transport system, because all those things have a lot of effect on determination of interest rate. So, but there are people who are doing well even with the present interest rate. It's a question of strategy. If you look at where to play in the country and you're able to adapt it, you can make your money.
Why do I think you're justifying this double-digit interest rate?
I'm not when you say justifying it.
You said there are people who are doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well because in view of the fact that you need to survive in this environment, they also look at where to play. And they're able to play there and they are doing very well.
But the growth is not meant for individuals, it's meant to be for the collective growth of this country.
Thank you.
So can we grow at interest rates that are more than say 1 or 2%, like China did? China grew on 1% interest rate. China
did that after a lot of work, if you want to look at the research on that interest rate, because they have the population, which is good, but they put in place the light, the electricity is stable, the road system is okay. You don't have to transport a lot of people. For you to charge you in, all those overhead form part of your competition for you to arrive at the interest rate.
I think that's the next point where they'll have to shed some light from Abuja.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much indeed for coming on today, Mr. Eddie Osarinhai, former president, Finance Houses Association of Nigeria. So, Mark, what you heard there, how much can the government achieve without stable electricity supply and some of the other components that he mentioned? Go ahead, please.